And those children there are my kids. They're everything to me. And that's it for my background. And I am effectively a science teacher. I teach physics. I can teach chemistry as well. And also I spend a lot of time doing lots of project work, lots of side projects and computing programs and stuff like that for the last 10 years. I've done different things. This is just one of them as well. All right, yeah. So this is just quick rundown because someone was asking. How or what were we gonna do today? Just need to get rid of this. What we're gonna do, this is just quick rundown of what we're going to do today. Just gonna talk about the power of AI in the classroom and talk about the fact that it's actually been here with us for a long time, but we probably haven't or appreciated it until it's come to the front. In the case of ChatGPT and so its ability to happen in front of you, I think it's more the fact that it's more happening in front of you real time that makes us think this is something new, but it's actually been there for a while now. Be it in a different ways, sort of machine learning, which is still artificial intelligence, just more programmatic, but we'll talk about that later on. And then we're talking about sort of what's the mission of TeachAi? What are some things that we want to achieve? And not only talk about it, but I'm going to show you live how it is helping me, it's helping my team, it's helping people in my school as well to kind of teach in the classroom. I'm going to talk about how we will be using some of those features to adapt personalized education. And I'll talk about some of the feedback that I've got from some of the teachers here, as well as teachers in my current school at the moment. And then I'll finish off with updates and some of the things about how to access TeachAi. But in between all of this, I'm going to give you a chance if you have any question to ask me, any question whatsoever. Within reason, I'll be able to answer that. Now, just a quick talk about what artificial intelligence is simply, and if you look at it in its simplest definition, really, is using technologies to enhance teaching and learning and improve student retention and student success. And this involves using programs or algorithms, intelligent agents to automate various tasks and processes. Now, I just look down here. Some of us have we've probably come across Midjourney, OpenCV, and things like that. But this is something 21st century, they've got lots of applications that we use in school or we use in schools that really makes use of artificial intelligence that we probably have not really taught very much about. But when you think about it in the back end, it actually makes use of machine learning to show the students different questions based on the answers they gave before and things like that. And Seneca, which is also a platform that most people use at the moment, Seneca, is also makes use of machine learning or artificial intelligence. But today we are probably here because of natural language processing that has kind of speed up significantly in the last, I'd say in the last 5 years, but in the last sort of 1 year, it's become more prominent because it's been democratized in the way that almost everyone knows it now, or almost everyone talks about it now. And that's not natural language processing, which is what we're about, which is what TeachAi is making use of. However, in the future, we're going to be combining these two, computer vision, and I'll talk about that. But that's our next step. How do we combine pictures as well as text to help teachers in the classroom? We're going to be talking about that as well. but most of the applications we have today makes use of text, interacting with computers with text and things like that. Now, in terms of how or what happens in the back end of this, I think it's going to take a whole kind of lecture to talk about how natural language processing really happens, because sometimes a few people want to really know what's the science behind this. And there is a complete knowledge and there's an incomplete knowledge about it, if that makes sense. There's still a few things that are unclear, but a lot is clear about how computers process words. And that's going to take a whole, probably another hour, 2 hours to talk about with different graphics and things like that. Might be for another time. Now, I wanted to talk about the benefits. Why did I decide to spend quite a long time researching and kind of working on this project? And it is more than anything is to enhance the learning experience. And I give you an example why. Because by virtue, I've been head of department, and probably some of us here would know or would have seen that, either as a head of department or as a senior leadership or someone in school, and you go into an exam or you go into a classroom. I mean, you go into a classroom and you're observing a teacher. And after that, you give feedback in terms of things like personalize the learning. And you feel like there's that little bit you want to give them more, but because it's not your subject, you're not quite sure how to tell them to personalize the learning. You can tell them, but you can't give them precise examples because it's not your subject. And this is especially if you're sort of senior leadership and you walk into a classroom and you know differentiation, the learning is not personalized, but you're not quite sure how to give these teachers pointers to how to differentiate the learning. And that was one of the things I was thinking about, or one of the problems I had leading in my department as well, which I'm going to talk about later on. And so that's when it comes to like personalizing the learning experience for students in the classroom. Now, improving the efficiency of teaching and assessment, and then making sure that there's a wealth. I think there's a wealth of education resources that are adaptive. It's very easy as a teacher to teach the same. I mean, I've been teaching for 13 years. Sometimes you feel like you can teach the same lesson. Once you've got it all planned, you can teach the same lesson for 3-4 years in a row. I mean, it's the same specification, it hasn't changed. But at a point, how can we create a bank of resources that just liven up the lesson, change it up? Because you teach 5 lessons or 5 different classes, the same lesson. Is there any way you can kind of do this without lots and lots of effort? That was also something that I taught about. How do we make teachers' life easier, where they can have creative lessons, fun lessons, without actually always having to look for different things to do? Because if you want to make your lessons engaging every time, that's probably why teachers don't do it, that you have to constantly be looking for ideas everywhere. And so how do we actually automate this process? And then AI is just there to help. And then obviously in terms of the future, these are some of the things that it could do in the future. I am working on this at the moment, where during revision, set of students can kind of have like feedback, and from that it gives the teacher information to kind of pick out the struggling students and things like that. But this is still in the early stages, and when it goes live, obviously I'll post it in the group for people to look at how to identify struggling students. Now, I think I just spoke about this. This is our mission at TeachAi, to empower teachers with AI technology to streamline lesson planning, make them effective and engaging, enhance the experience promote the teacher's well-being by reducing workload, and sort of improve the teacher's work-life balance. I mean, that's one thing that of almost every profession, I think our profession is probably the teacher's profession is the only profession that I know that you go home with your work almost every time. I mean, in some schools you don't, but almost every other school that I have been at, you almost are expected to do some work at home. How can we reduce that? That's kind of our mission, and our vision is to make sure. Our vision is to make sure that the learning experience can be changed through innovation and AI. That we're creating a future where teachers have access to all the tools that they need to kind of prepare the students to create a culture of continuous learning, continuous improvement within the classroom, not just for the teacher, but also for the student. And I say this because
instructional practices improve educational outcomes. But
I say this because we will be in the future. We will be having students who will go on to become industry people in an industry that's going to be driven by AI. And so if we, dear teachers, are not ready for that, I don't know how we will be able to prepare them to be able to work in those industries. So for those of you who've gone onto a site, and some of us, I think almost everyone here would have, you see that we've got lesson PowerPoints, creators, lesson plans creators, resource creators, differentiation. The feedback system is in process. The virtual assistant for teachers is also, it's actually working, and then the concept explainer as well is working. So this will be the core features for now, and then after that, we're going to be adding more things to that. And just quickly talk about some of the teachers that have been sending me just different notes. You've got Amelia there saying the lesson, it just creates a lesson in seconds. Over there, Roberto's like, I can just differentiate my lessons, and I can use this for my feedback and next steps. That also I have done actually, and I'm going to be showing people how to do that. I have found more than one international cultural link to every lesson. That's also something especially for international teaching, and for teachers who are in schools that are always kind of focus on internationalism, which is what's that organization that you have to always show internationalism. I remember that. It's just escaped me at the moment. But this can help you with internationalism in every single topic, even the boring ones. Every topic you can add internationalism to it, and then try different hooks. So teacher was like, I have 3 different classes teaching them the same lesson, but now I can try different hooks based on how I think this class, if it's a quiet class, I try a different hook for them with them. If it's a much more bubbly class, I can try different. And I do this all by just typing in the title, as opposed to going around looking for different ways. All I just do is put in the title, and I got 3 examples of a hook for the same lesson. And so that's been good. Yeah. Please, can we mute our microphone, because I can get some feedback here from, if you can mute your microphone. If you want to speak, just let me know, and I'm happy to just raise your hand. I will see it here, and I'm happy to kind of pause for you to ask any question if you do have a question. Okay. So I keep this answer so that I can answer or ask any questions. All right. Now, so at the end of this, we will be giving out 100 discount lifetime accounts where you just get to pay once, and then you don't get to pay for the rest of it. And 10 people get access to this, and if those 10 people, the first 10 people they will also get a 10 discount code. I'm gonna at the end, if you're here at the end, I'll show what the discount code is and what the lifetime access account is, and people can go on to use those. And if you want to use them, if you're happy with what you see and you want to go ahead and use them. All right. So any questions before we take a deep dive and have a look? Any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask me any questions you may have. Any questions so far? Okay. Excellent. All right, let's take a deep dive. And now, just gonna. Please, can we continue to mute the microphone? Okay, I'm gonna go to our website, TeachAi, which most people have gone to, and probably see this was in its earliest form. Can you see that at the moment? Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. New logging, like so. This should be able to take me to. All right, so you come here. So that's a student, the student section that I'm still working on, which at some time in the future I probably would allow students to use that. But still, this is the part that I think teachers are the most important for me at the moment. And I'm going to talk about what I'm working on for teachers, where teachers can use it to help their students. So when you open it here and you look through, you're going to see that there's so many widgets that are on here. And if it feels like most people just use this and are not quite sure what to do with it. But I'm going to talk us through how, or the whole rationale between all of this widget was to have not just an app, but a workspace for a teacher. And I'll show you how the workspace is set up for a teacher to plan all of their lessons in one sitting by just going into the app, get everything you need and walk away from that. Okay. So once you click on that, you should be able to have a setup like so. And I'm sure everyone has seen this setup before. And you go ahead and type whatever you're trying to look for. Let's say I'm trying to study projectile motion. Now, I want to talk about a few things that I believe, I don't know if a lot of people have looked at closely, which is that when you add try to add your objectives and the keywords you're targeting, this narrows but creates enough information for the AI to create the resource that you need to teach this lesson. It takes you as close as possible to your exam specification, if not exactly what your exam specification. So for every topic that you're teaching, just put the title, the keywords that you want to target, the exam, your exam board in quote, learning objectives, for example. It could be, I'll just say define projectile motion. Explain relationship between vertical and horizontal components. Velocity or acceleration, projectile motion, and applications. And you can go ahead to add all the projectile. Sorry, please, can you mute? If you want to speak, just let me know. If you can mute your, okay, thank you. Yeah, if you, there's a question here saying, do you mean overall specific expectations? Now, for every particular topic, I mean, I know for all the examples, for every topic that you teach, for every topic that you teach, there should be some sort of expectations, some will call it. We call it objectives, the things you want to address in the lesson. That would be the objectives or the outcomes. What are the things you want them to learn, to be able to define projectile motion, to be able to explain the relationship between horizontal or applications of projector. So what are the outcomes that you're aiming for? Velocity. Some of the keywords you're probably looking for: range, time of flight, acceleration, okay, vertical displacement. Okay, and now, once you've done that, add as much of the keywords as you can. And I'm going to explain later on why those keywords are important in the next slide. And then you now go and choose. For me, this will be a year 12, depending on what year group you are, the AI would understand how to kind of tailor the lesson. If you say it's projectile motion in physics, now knows, then you decide what differentiation do you want to choose for. Let's see. Okay, trajectory. Someone's saying trajectory. Okay, can add that in there. So it just depends on, and so this can work for any exam sub board. As long as you do this, it works for any exam board. And say for my exam board, I'll go with IAL. So all I'm trying to do, and if you know how AI works, you're trying to take it as close as possible to all the things that you need. And then I added this feature recently where you go here and you choose the language that you want. Now, if you don't find your language here and you want me to add that on, please let me know. You can either send me an email to alex@teachai.io or just contact me also on Facebook as well. I'm happy to. Yeah, okay. Had a request for Afrikaans is here. I've seen a request for Hebrew, so Hebrew will be there as well. But Afrikaans and any other language you'd like me to put in here, just let me know. So I'll just keep it. If you don't choose anything, then the default is English. Okay. So if you don't choose anything, it defaults to English. And then we click on generate lesson. And second, and wait. So I'm happy to crew Ojibwe. Oh wow, I've not had those, but I can have a look at. I don't know what they would look like. Yeah. Yeah, Afrikaans, yeah. Afrikaans is there. And I'm not sure if people are expecting me out on Facebook, YouTube. I'm having problems with YouTube. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to explain the whole layout of this. And so I'm just trying to respond to messages, people who can find us. Now, if you look at this, what you would find here is the learning objectives, and then he breaks it down into Bloom's taxonomy, which is pedagogy. And here it shows you the collaborative teaching techniques you can use as a teacher, how you can get your students to work together and almost take away that instructional, because that is the future. What effectively the future of teaching is, where teachers are more guiding people rather than just standing and telling them is this, is that. You get the students working together, which is collaborative collaborative learning. And so what it does here is it breaks down the whole lesson into 3 different structures, where you've got the starter using collaborative core rally table. And then over here, this is what you're obviously going to use the rally table for. If you look at students will work in pairs to create a list of examples where projectile motion occurs in nature and in man-made objects, and the teacher will monitor and encourage participation. This is to provoke. So it takes away, the lesson plan is not, and this is written from the latest pedagogical. So I designed this from the latest pedagogical structures of learning, where learning is not about a teacher just standing there and just talking the whole lesson. Is where the teacher stimulates that curiosity that within the students, and they're discussing and they're coming up with the ideas, and the teacher's just overseeing that learning that's happening. And that's how this lesson plan That's why it would be different from, say, you go to ChatGPT, write a lesson plan. ChatGPT is not cognizant of the latest techniques of learning. So it's just going to give you instruction of how a teacher is going to stand in front of the class and teach, which is not bad, but it's not the most current way of teaching, if that makes sense. I mean, this is something that leaders of teaching and learning, which is something that I've done for a while, would kind of agree with, that collaborative learning is much better because students learn more from each other than they actually learn from the person standing in front of them. And then for the next steps, we then work in groups, form a circle, or however you want to design this, we'll have question cards related to projectile motion, and they will quiz the student opposite them. After, they'll trade the cards and find a new partner. And this way, it tells you why the teacher is doing this activity or why the teacher should be doing this and what the students will learn from this particular activity. And all this kind of links here, down here. The teacher will explain the definition, its components, and then using all those activities to do this, and then the plenary. So right through this lesson, it gives you all the things you need. Now, you would say, how are students going to come up with some of the information if they've never known it? That's why you've got this here, the lesson facts over here. And all you have to do is, at the beginning of your lesson, you click on this, download lesson facts, and it has downloaded, but it's on here. Let me see if I can get to it. It has downloaded behind here. Let's see. Get to it. One second. So just give me a second. Sorry, I had to close that because I couldn't get access to what I just downloaded. All right, there it is. I'm just going to share what we downloaded and then we'll go back to it. There we go. Share. So there we go. So you give this over to your students, and they could use this as part of the stuff they read, and then they use this as almost like their initial stimulus material that they can now use to collaborate. So they have like a foundation and knowledge of what they can, so they don't just go and start talking about random stuff. They actually have some knowledge to now begin to develop the lesson from which they can develop the rest of the lesson from. Now I had to close that because it was a little bit doing what I didn't need it to do. I'm still here. No, I'll go away from wait. Can I take it? All right, yeah. There we go. All right. So we downloaded that, and that's what can you see it? Resume share screen. There we go. A few people cannot join the link. I'm not sure why. just use the passcode. Sorry. All right. So now all the information you get here, you can now use with your student. Now let's scroll down. Are there any questions now? Sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna respond to a few. So I just seen a question, any interactive support in, I don't understand what that means. Yeah, the lesson in fact could be used for flipped learning. Absolutely. It could be used for flipped learning. It could be used for pre-learning. You can generate that, give it to them to read before they come into the lesson, so that when you now do this activity, let's say you generate this at the end of your lesson before and give it to the students. So when they come in and you put them into groups to discuss this, they now actually have what to talk about because they have gone home, they've done. So yeah, absolutely, it can work for flipped learning, this exercise here. So that's something that I haven't thought about, but obviously when you open source things like this, it becomes. Right, so yeah, all right. So excellent. A few people are using it as and that's the reason why I think the interactive session was so that, because a lot of people just log on and not quite sure why exactly this is designed this way. Obviously, after this, and I post a video, people are gonna be a bit more appreciative of how the whole layout is designed. Now that you've got this to this part of your lesson, why I said this is a workspace, this is not just an application, this is your workspace where you can do everything at once, and I'll show you why. So now that you've got to this part of your lesson, you've got a lesson plan, you've got all these things, but you're not quite sure how to actually teach this properly, or you're not happy with the starter, you want to have a different starter to this one. So you want to have a different starter, you can just come down here, click on this. Now, it takes you here where your lesson is on the right-hand side, and then you've got an opportunity to generate another starter. And all you could do is you could just copy all of this here, Control C, here, Control V, sorry, I'm supposed to do Control C, Control V. Okay. And then you just go here. I'm teaching a physics class. I'm teaching year 12. And the language default English. I could try another language, but I wouldn't understand it. And now let's see what it does for us. Because we said we're not happy with the starter that it's giving us. So we'll look at this and when I'm not happy with this starter, I need something else. Let's see what it does. Excellent. So here it creates another set of starter for you. So it gives you 4 options: catchphrase, list of words, link to input students and divide the class into 2 teams, give them 1 cut and describe the word or phrase without using any word. And this kind of gets them kind of excited about the lesson. You can use sequence statements. You can use play, keyword, bingo, use images to kind of illustrate rocket launch, projectile events like sport, shot put, and things like that, javelin sports and stuff like that, to just get them to analyze those images and identify different components of projectile motion that are present in them. Because they've read ahead of the class, they kind of know what you're talking about when you're talking about components and things like that, etc., etc. So this kind of helps. And now you've got a new starter that you feel like, oh, I'm not happy with the starter that I have here. Now you've got a new starter to actually do this. Okay, so you can change your starter. And once you're done, and now you can just copy this onto your PowerPoint, and you've got a starter. So you probably open up your PowerPoint, you've got your starter sorted, and you go back here. Now that you're here, you're like, this main activity, I like it to be a bit more clear. I know it's clear here. If it wasn't clear what you're supposed to do, so I like this main activity to be a bit more clear. Tell me what you want me to do, because all I can see is teacher will explain projectile motions. I need you to make this a little bit more clear to me. All you have to do is come down here and click on develop your activity. What would happen is it takes you over to this point here. And so you've got your lesson on the right-hand side, and you've got the activity, developing your activity on the left-hand side. And all you have to do is go to that part, copy it, come over here, click on this, paste it. Oh no, what's it got? Does this a lot. Okay. And go here, physics, year 12 group. This is a main activity. Choose the language and ignite. Now it would, let's see what it does. It would now give us all the instructions that we need to be able to do this. Are there any questions, or are people trying it out as we're speaking? We're giving it a go as we speak. All right, there we go. So it now takes you step by step. How to go about doing that. tells you precisely what to do. And it builds that whole lesson. And then we're going to come later on and talk about how to differentiate and things like that. But it takes you step by step on how to do that, what to do, etc. for that activity. And you've done developing that activity. Now you want to create. I'm going to pause for a second. Does anyone have any questions before I talk about the next thing you can do with this? Yes. Exactly. So this is what so the question is, can it produce pictures? No, but that's the next level for us. And I should be able to add pictures to it in the next few weeks, if not a week. I should be able to add the ability for you to create pictures, because one of the things that I find is sometimes you go online and you don't find the pictures that you want for a particular lesson. You can just create your own pictures and use it in the lesson. And so at the moment, we don't have that facility, but it definitely will be coming online soon. So over here, you got, now I'm going to talk about this. This was the driving force to do this for me. Internationalism. Now, in my school, we were recently accredited. Now I'm trying to remember what that was. Now I'd be in trouble with my school if I don't remember what this was, because I was part of the team as well. So and part of it was we're also judged against how we make sure that our students are international learners. And one of the things that we drove over the last sort of three years was bringing in internationalism into lessons. It was then that we came face to face with the fact that if you want to have an international learner, you have to make their learning all-encompassing in terms of they have to see other cultures at play. Because my school, we teach the British curriculum, sometimes it's quite Anglo-centric in what we teach. So we had to find a way, and you found that some topics didn't lend themselves to international ideas because you were just stuck for any idea that links this to any cultural context. And when I created this, now we use it in my school. All the schemes of work are written using this, where people just have to put in the lesson they want to teach, and it creates an international context. So let's have a look at this. All you need here is just to tell it your title, projectile motion. I need an international. And by the way, see, you don't have to sit there and craft any prompt or anything. Just say projectile motion, physics, whatever language that is. Give me international ideas or cultural ideas that I can discuss with my students about projectile motion. Now, there are quite some boring topics, like, I mean, not boring. Okay, I won't say they're boring, but they just don't learn. Because I remember, I think I was teaching, what was this topic? Polarization in active potential in biology, A-level biology. And it's just like, what's the connection between active potential and any cultural? And still we were able to get one. So let's have a look at what it does here. So it breaks it up, actually. It gives you options. So cultural perception of projectile motion. So discuss how different cultures view projectile motion through the history. Then it gives you precise examples for famous Mongolians and their tactics and warfare. By examining different perspectives, students will have understand the breadth of applications of this. Then it takes you on to the next one, which either you want to go cultural or you want to go international computation of projectile Another way to incorporate this into your lesson is to have students work with international data sets to calculate the trajectory of projectiles. For example, students analyze the data from NASA or to track the projectile trajectories of missiles, rockets, etc., etc. So this is now going, or you could go historical. So the development of early theories and projectile could also be a fruitful way to incorporate this. And then this gets the student talk about the Greeks and projectile motion, Arabs, and this is something that most of my students are Arab students, and they don't tend to see themselves. I mean, up until we started doing internationalisms, they never saw a lot of their culture in what we were teaching. It was just like Snell's law, that law, Ohm's law. So everything was quite Anglo and Westernized. But the moment we brought internationalism and they began to see lots of things that had some sort of Arabic origin or some sort of Middle Eastern origin. And that kind of give them the aspiration that we also can be famous people like anybody else in the world. So I'm trying to understand. Malik is saying, can it be interactive activity? I'm trying to understand what you mean by that.
Sorry, Alex, I'm
Yeah,
keep
please.
asking you interactive.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what you mean.
Yeah, I can explain it in
Go ahead.
words. Anything which can be highlighted in the text that should go to a video or something, we can do the experiment. For example, in projectile motion, we can project an object with different angles to verify what is the critical angle to get the maximum range. So it's visualizing things here from AI. We can practically do and change parameters to get the result and analyze. That's an idea. I mean, if you can think about it.
Oh, I know what I'm trying to, I'm trying to see, do you mean adding things like simulations?
Yeah, it's almost similar meanings like interactive or simulations. Interactive mean you can interact with it. So you can vary different parameters to see what is the effect of that parameter in, let's say you're changing the angle or you're changing the velocity of projectile, initial velocity, what will be the impact on. So we can do it practically because sciences are mostly supported by practical things. So that's an idea. We can incorporate those things in our lesson.
Yeah, I do kind of see the angle you're coming from. I'm a science teacher, and I know that we need lots and lots of practicals within it. Now, I have to be honest in terms of what this type of AI can do. Right now, building simulations into like the results you get real time is not possible at the moment. That's just the honest fact. Building simulations is not possible at the moment, but I would imagine in the near future where you prompt and it creates some, because if you think about simulations, there's lots of JavaScript that goes into building a simulation, and for it to do that runtime, it's something that
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of support in the lesson. I mean, in the lesson plan, eventually we can end up or conclude our lesson plan with those practices or those things which can help and support our lesson. That's the idea.
I now I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, you can always kind of attach simulations to your lesson. This is more of a lesson plan and a guide of how to teach your lesson. it can create a simulation, not in this way. That's just the honest fact that it cannot create a simulation in this way, because to create a simulation on runtime, the amount of JavaScript that needs to be written, compiled, and hosted on some sort of server that runs it. It's something that I don't know, but it's something to think about. I would not be working on that at any point, but as someone's just said, simulations are different from a lesson plan, and so this is more strictly speaking creating lesson plans and lesson resources in that way as opposed to simulations. Now, someone said something about generating PowerPoint slides. Now, I'll come to that. I'll come to that later on. I'll talk about PowerPoint slides. I'll come to PowerPoint slides later on and explain that it can generate PowerPoint slides, and I have been doing that, but the PowerPoint slides is still in the beta phase. Should be ready in a day or two, but it can generate PowerPoint slides. Now, if you want to differentiate your lesson, okay, so this is the one where I use this quite a lot. I use this particular part of it a lot, where at the end of a lesson, I give them a test, and at the end of the test, I kind of, after marking it, I look at the test and look at the topics within the test. And all I do is, which you can do this manually, or you can do this, let's say the topic of the highlight of the test is exploring projectile motions. Just put this in here. Let's go with this. Copy. This. That's a problem with. Okay, and then I click on this here, and 12 physics, choose a language and generate. So while we wait, I'll take a question. Now, I think I've answered this question about videos and animations. Now, in the current state of language models, which is what we use for AI, the current AI that is all the rage at the moment, in its current state, if it gives you a YouTube link, any AI anywhere, you can quote me, apart from Bing at the moment, because Bing is effectively a search engine attached to an AI, which wouldn't do most things. It's just there to search and help you. Apart from Bing, you can quote me, any AI that gives you a YouTube link, 99 times out of 100, that link will be dead because it's not real. It just can't do YouTube links at the moment. The YouTube links are not real. And so I wouldn't promise that, at least not right now. But there is, I'm working on, and I think I said to someone, I'm working on new applications of ways to do it. There are other ways to do it. And so I'm working on that, ways to kind of do a search runtime and then see if the AI can combine that with it. But it's something that I am working on. But at the moment, it is always dead. Yeah, anyone who's tried ChatGPT, YouTube links, they will always be dead because they're not real. So don't waste your time. Anyone who says their AI gives YouTube links apart from Bing is not true. Now, anyway, that's just that I mean, I say this, I stand to be corrected. In all of my research, Bing is the only one that I know. that actually gives. So to ChatGPT pull up links, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm not sure where it gets those links from, I have to be honest. Now let's have a look at this exercise here, where what you've got here is it pulls up questions for your students, and over here it breaks it down into different levels. So you've got the developing level. So what I normally do is, if my exam questions are out of like 40, I say if you got between 30 and 40, you do the exceeding. So these are their questions. Now, by the way, it gives you all the answers. So what you do is you just click on download this. So I get a worksheet, a differentiated worksheet in seconds. Now I'm just gonna show you, resume sharing. Let's see, share. So I get a differentiated worksheet in seconds. And over here, all I have to do is just delete. And now I have got questions for my students who got 15 and under. And then all I could just add is 15 and under, or I could put next steps on the board. If you got 15 and under, this is your question. If you got 15 to 25, then this is your question. Just delete this. Now, by the way, you don't have to download this. You could give them, one second. Didn't have to download this. You could give them. And so this is for everyone who got 15 up to 25 or 30, depends on how you want to do it. And then for those who got above 30, and I give them exceeding to just delete. And I put it on the wall, on the board. So you've got step one, next step 2, next step 3, all created in 20 seconds. And I have to. Will it give examples of modifications for different levels of learners? Now, Jay Clemenson, I'm happy for you to come on and kind of elaborate a bit more what you mean by that, because I'm not sure what you mean by that question. If you wanna kind of speak about it.
So like if you have learners that are on like IEPs, or in where we're from, they come 504s, where they need, less questions or reading examples that maybe have easier levels of reading for them, will it point out different places where easy modifications could be made within your lesson?
Okay. I'm going to talk about two things. Thank you for that. I'm going to talk about two things that you can use for that. Two things, which depends on the level of difficulty. One second. Just depending on the level of difficulty for your student. Let's just have a look at what I wanted to talk about in a minute. Share. Now, if you come over here, all right, we come over here. Now, there is differentiation for SEN, which depends on what you mean in terms of their level of learning, and we're going to look at that in a minute. Or you could go with generate a word field. If you feel your students need a lot more scaffolding, is that what you mean? If I don't.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So with students who need like that granular, almost struggling reading and things like that, you can now use generate a word field, and the whole lesson could be made as a word field where they could do at the end or they could do as they go. Now, as much as you want to have in this word field, you can have 10 keywords, you can have 5 keywords, and all you have to do is just say what the topic or the objectives are. Let's say, for example, to be honest, just saying what the topic is enough. So projectile motion. And then in this case, we could add projectile, range, time of flight.
Huh.
So I was talking about some vertical velocity. Acceleration. And choose the same thing. All we have to do is, you don't need to type anything, just choose your language and click on this. Now it will target those keywords. If these are the keywords you want to make sure that this student understands, then it's going to target these keywords and then gives them that opportunity where they can answer the question. Let's see. Critical angle. So while we wait, does anyone have any questions or any that I haven't, any areas that I haven't talked about? Right, there we go. So over here, you've got the closed passage here. So it's got everything here, and then it's got all the gaps here. And it's got the full answer here. Okay. And so you could just download this. Just click on download. There we go. Just click on this. Was it 6? And you can make this bigger, change spacing, change the spacing, delete the answer, or keep the answer for when you can show them. And then there you go. If you're not happy, you just redo it again, and it will reduce the amount of words, etc. So, okay. So that could help if you feel that that student is, if you feel that this particular student is struggling too much with like understanding the idea, then you can obviously do this. And finally, for SEN, and this I actually did specifically for SEN in my school. That I was talking to them about how, because I get SEN students in some of my lessons, and as a teacher, you got a SEN TA in your classroom, and you're supposed to have that open that dialogue with that TA on how to help a particular student with a particular need. Sometimes they come ahead of the lesson and speak to you and say, how can I help this student? Now, as much as it is their job, the TA's job to help that student, it's also the teacher's job to provide as much resources as is possible for the teacher to the TA to do their job effectively. So I'd say, for example, you wanted to teach this. Okay. So projectile motion. And I'm not sure how to teach the starter. I cannot copy this. Anyway, let's see if I've got this. All right. All right. No, I wanted to get the students to do the quick quiz trade. Now now for some special needs, doing this is not something they find quite easy. And so you're about to do this in your lesson. You know a TA is going to be there. What can you give to this TA or this teaching assistant to help them? Or if you're a teaching assistant, what can you do to this particular lesson activity to make it accessible to your student? And so what we, now I cannot copy this and I know why. I'm just going to work on that later on. Quiz. Just do something else. I'll come back to this. Give me a second. I'll come back to it in a minute. I'll just copy it from here. Let's go back there. Paste it here. Oh, that's the activity. So I cut this, put it here. And then the title is projectile motion. So this is the activity that I want to teach in my class. And this class is physics. This year group is year 12. Now, you're going to see there's quite a few like needs that you're going to have to go and pick up a book to read how to look after this particular child. Then you're going to adapt it to this particular lesson. And then you're going to produce the resources for this child for this lesson. So if you're going to do this, this is going to, it's almost, and that's why most teachers don't really focus on SEN in their class and they just dump it for the, because it does require you going out of your way to go and read up again about this child and then take your lesson and then think of how do I adapt this lesson to this child? All you could just do is probably, if this child is ADHD or Asperger's or down, whatever it is, you could just let that, I'll just go ADHD, then generate differentiation. So what it's going to do now is make your life, the teaching assistant's life, completely easy. Because all it's going to do now is give you the resource that you can just pick up, print it, and hand it over to the teaching assistant. And you can teach the lesson and you can always kind of, and if you don't have a teaching assistant, which in some schools you don't, especially at sort of secondary level, then you can just give that to the child and that can help you differentiate for that child's need in that class at that particular moment without actually spending hours and hours. And so here, this is what it breaks it down into: revision, set of visuals. So it tells you exactly, and it gives you precisely the example. Then it tells you what visual aid, showing, angle. So it gives you precisely what and how you should implement that. And then the answer that you're expecting from the child and what the visual aid should look like. Then it comes to kinesthetic tools. They have lots of energy, for example. Then it tells you precisely how to, for this particular lesson, this is what you should do. So to increase the velocity in this, you get the students to throw beanbags at targets at different distances. So you're not sitting there thinking of what, it literally tells you how to engage this particular child. And then it tells you what so you should be eliciting from this child, like trying to work out from what this child is doing, what are some of the answers that you want to pull out of them. So increasing the velocity increases the distance. This is because, and then you kind of guide the child. And then finally, it also gives you another example. So you can either do one or all of this. It can be difficult to stay focused. So you modify their cards. So instead of giving them the same cards as the other children, you draw a card illustrating the different components of projectile motion, modify the quick quiz format so that it's not just writing, but requiring some sort of drawing, and then the student draws instead of the student kind of reading. So this kind of helps. And obviously you can download this and give it to the TA or whoever. If you're the one using, then you have it to hand. And that should solve that problem. Any questions? Everyone happy so far? Okay, I'll take it. When people are quiet, it means they're happy. So I'll take it to be. Okay, all right. And I'll go back to the main, so over here. So we've explored all of this. And the last one, I think we haven't looked at is values. Now, some schools, my school included, we are expected to add, in my school, we're expected to add value. So my school is called Oryx. We expected to add values for the school's values into the lesson. So we've got 5 values: integrity, hard work. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I'd probably be in trouble for this. But integrity, responsibility, these are the values you have to add them in one way or the other into your lesson. And so what I got AI to do is I give it a topic and it suggests to me 5 ways in which I could add this into my lesson. I'm gonna come, Pippa, 1 second. I'm gonna come to you in a minute. So let's say project motion. No, I'm killing projectile motion in this example. Okay, and the values are responsibility, integrity, hard work, respect, and whatever. And you just choose what language you you just leave that default English. By the way, you could choose I could choose any language, but I wouldn't know what is written down. So I'll just stay clear of the languages. And so now it would show me how to incorporate these values into my lesson so that, and I know we're not doing this because we're being observed by anybody, but it just helps to bring part of my school's ethos. And every school, I think every school has their own ethos as well into it. So for responsibilities, so students should be responsible for collecting their data. They could also be responsible for working in groups and communicating effectively. Integrity can be encouraged to show integrity by avoiding cheating or plagiarism, etc. Hard work, challenge to work hard and put in extra effort. And you could just copy this. Well, it depends on how your school's policy. At different points in the lesson, you can signpost the students to the school's values and how that is incorporated into the lesson. And so that the school's values is not just something that it's, well, that's our plan. It's not something that's just in a book somewhere, but something that's signposted right through the lesson for students to know that every lesson has the school's values linked to it. And so I think we've kind of done all of this. And the last one is, now there is a PowerPoint as well here. There's a PowerPoint option, which, like I said, will be live. It was live before. I just had to amend a few things to it, and it will be live in the next 24 to 48 hours. It will be live again. I just needed to test it properly before I let it go live again. But for the outline, this effectively gives you an outline of what the lesson can look like. If you have writer's block, you're not sure how to go about this lesson, then the PowerPoint outline will give you a writer's block to do that. Yes, so I am recording this as we speak. So for someone asking about a replay, it would be, yeah, I am recording as we speak, which I didn't announce at the start. I am recording as we speak. So I would post it on our YouTube channel, and I'm going to post it in the group as well, for people to signpost them to the YouTube channel to have a look at it and watch. And I'll also break it up into different slices as well, so that people can have, if they don't want to watch the whole thing, they can watch different parts of it. All right, so it gives you kind of an outline now. This is not what the actual PowerPoint will look like, but it gives you an outline of how to break down this PowerPoint into, like, the first slide should have, like, not great, but kind of introduction and then the definition. Now, the PowerPoint part of it, I have to say, needs a lot more work on, but everything else is ready to go. Now I'm gonna go back to this. So we've kind of explored most of this, and now when you come to this widget, if you don't want to go through the lesson plan, you can come here, and you've got everything. You can access them directly, and if you do them from the lesson plan, you can also access them as well. If you don't want to, you can just go directly to the one that you want, and you can access that directly. Now, before I let you go, I'm just going to talk about, like, next steps, etc., etc. I think we were on deep dive. So what is in the future for us? In the most recent futures, I'm working on kind of getting some sort of curriculum specific revision and auto feedback systems where teachers can assign it to students, and they could just, every time they answer a question, it marks, gives them feedback, not just right or wrong, but actual next step feedback in words and things like that. That would be something that I'll kind of do in something I'm working on. And and also unit planners, like planning schemes of work, precisely how your curriculum wants it planned, because different curriculums plan schemes of work slightly differently, whether it be like MYP, etc., and things like that. And image generation, I think I mentioned this. You would be able to, in the near future, you'll be able to create your own images immediately, and just use those images in your lesson. Just copy, save them, and just copy them onto your lesson. That's something also that is in the pipeline. Please share this with your colleagues, share this with people in your school. Now, by the way, we're looking to partner with schools. We're looking to partner with schools, and I'm willing to kind of give schools trials and see if they like it. And then they can get sort of a school plan is different from sort of an individual's plan. And so if your school want to try it, I know a few schools have reached out. If you want to try it, in addition, my school's using it at the moment, one other school. If you want to try it, please reach out to me. I'm happy to let your school use it for a month, see if you like it, and then we can talk about how much it's going to cost you in the next school year, etc., etc. And for individual accounts, we've got a launch. Where's it gone? Okay. So got 100 accounts that for lifetime accounts as part of the launch. Okay. Lifetime account as part of the launch, and the first 10 people can use the discount code to get £50 off for the first 10 people, and you get a lifetime account. And after 100 people, I'll take that off because it is effectively a subscription-based business. But as part of the launch, as part of this launch, that this is the first time that I'm actually taking it out online. I'm happy to give out 100 people a discounted live account for £150. And if you are among the first 10 people to use Web 50, you can get a £50 discount off that. And if you go to our website on the pricing page, you should be able to find the lifetime option. It is going to be there for, I reckon, the next two days. Depends on when we get to 100, probably take it down as long as we get to 100. But apart from that, thank you so much for taking some time to come out here and spend some time with me. And if you have any other questions or any other thing, okay, so here is, if you to the website where you can get this. If you don't know, it's www.teachai.io, which is what we've been using so far. And then when you get on there, oh no, sorry. This is to everyone, www.teachai.io. When you get on there, you sign up and you go to the pricing section. Should be able to find this. Okay. So I'm happy to take any other questions. No questions? Maria, you're welcome. You're welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for coming. I hope it's been helpful. At least now, the next time you go on TeachAi, you actually know what you're doing. You actually have an idea, as opposed to just going on there and it's just like another tool. You go and you just look at it and you think it's just a lesson plan. It's just much more than just a lesson planner. It's a whole workflow for a teacher. Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I would end the stream now if it, and thank you so much. I will probably do this next week for those who are in Australia and sort of New Zealand, because they're in a different time zone. I'll see how many people sign up for it and we take it from there. Okay. Thank you very much. And bye everyone. It was good. It was good spending time with you. Thank you. Bye for now. This academic year, I will be moving to China for probably a year or two. I'll see how that goes. But I'll be moving to China for a year or two.